We wanted to do a Mario-like game. It was going to be a side scroller.
It's all you're getting for a commercial because they didn't make anything else. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Play Retro. I'm one of your hosts, Scott Johnson. And how keen would it be to obtain the rank of Commander? Well, I think that would be peachy keen. So let's go shoot stuff in 2D while we can before those jerks in the office next door get Wolfenstein and Doom finished.
No, those jerks. And I'm your other host, Brian Dunaway, and I ain't no child genius, but just in case, I stole my brother's Green Bay Packers helmet to protect my invaluable noggin as I pogo stick my way to Mars in my homemade backyard bean can spaceship. Genius I ain't. Also, I think somebody ate the babysitter. So, no bedtime for me, just hours and hours of Apogee shareware fun.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep, get your floppy disk, install it, share it.
Yep.
And
just
maybe
dial up. I think you're sharewaring wrong, man. I'm gonna hit my 2400 baud modem, and I'm gonna hit the BBS, and I'm gonna download me some.
That's another way to do it. Sure. I mean, I remember. So in the Commander Keen days, you could either you could do it that way if you were smart enough or had the hardware to do it, or what you knew somebody's BBS that hosted it. But I remember a store, couldn't tell you the name, may have been local only. But they sold nothing but really inexpensive collections of freeware, shareware type games on little 3.25 inch floppies.
Totally. I'm pretty sure totally illegal and totally had the same place where I lived.
Yeah.
Yes,
it doesn't feel legal, does it? It seems illegal.
It's right there on in the application itself. Apogee says, "Do not redistribute this." Dadgummit.
Yeah, when they called it shareware, I guess that was a mistake. Maybe we called it that.
Exactly. So the official means by which to get it was supposed to be through a BBS that was connected to Apogee for whatever relationship that was, and the idea was to not distribute it on floppies except for the mail order you would send to Apogee. But yeah, we had a little Movie Land place that we all had one everywhere.
Yeah, everybody had
which
one.
Was also did software because it was so easy just to copy the shareware software, throw it on a floppy disk, and just
plus
put
you
it
could
out there for sale.
I was basically a shareware distribution point for a while on my computer.
Yeah, I know you were.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, that and mixtapes, right?
Hell yeah. I make you one right now. You ready? What's a song you want on your mixtape?
Oh, I'm trying to get past Christmas. That's the theme for me this week because we're a couple of days past Christmas. For some reason, I can't quite let it go, and I'm still rocking out in my head to that new Ariana Grande Christmas song that just came out. That instant earwig. What's
How'd
the word?
How'd she get time for that, man? She's been all busy pushing Wicked down my throat. How'd she have time for a new Christmas song?
Might have released last year or something. I'm sure somebody will tell me, but I didn't hear it until this year, or maybe I only chose to hear it this year.
Is the song called Santa Tell Me? That's old.
Yeah, yes. Is that Santa? Is it old? The one where it's like, tell me if he's gonna be here next year.
Yeah, Santa Tell Me. Well, 10 years old, that song. A decade.
No way. Get out of here. Yeah. Wow. See, I only noticed it this year.
I think that's great, dude. November 24th, 2014 was when this was released.
There you go. What do I know? I told you I was into retro stuff. I'm into retro stuff because I'm about 20 years behind the curve.
No, I get it. It's totally fine. Okay, well, good news, everybody. We're here. We're going to do a show about Commander Keen. You got a little hint of that earlier. Before we get to it, though, couple of quick things. I spent a pretty obsessive about a week and a half right around the Christmas holiday. Just tweaking and dinking around with Emu Deck on my
tweaking and dinking. Who I like that
on my Steam Deck, and I don't know what I was doing this for. Mainly it's because I ran into this wall where suddenly PlayStation 1 stuff wasn't working, and it drove me crazy. And I was poking Brian all the time, like, "What do you think of this and this and this?" Anyway, finally figured it out. Had a lot to do with BIOS files and some other stuff. And once I figured that out, I just got in this mood and I was like, all right, we're going to dink around with this. I'm going to poke around with that, play with the little settings, mess with some of the tools they include in there now. I installed Emu Deck on my daughter's Steam Deck yesterday. She about lost her mind. She's so excited about this. So a lot of that going on. And then in the middle of it all, I find a game on sale on Steam. On stale? It's definitely on
stale. It's on stale. That means it was they couldn't move it, so they had to put it on stale.
Like old bread. It just was sitting there, getting a little blue on the ends.
Old.
You know, you can't have that. You don't want that.
Well, that's dramatic. Don't say that every time, because you know how many times I've started toast or something and didn't see the mold that was underneath my hand or something. And it's like, that bread should be fine, and then. Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Then it tastes like mud. It tastes like dirt, and you're like, wait a minute.
Usually I see it though. I don't think I've accidentally done that.
Well, the good news, it won't hurt you. It's just freaking mold. You'll be all right.
It's good for you. It's penicillin.
Yeah, it's all right. It's going to cure your cough or whatever.
Yeah.
So I found this game for $7.99. It's on sale right now, and I'm going to recommend this wholeheartedly, full-throatedly, because I just think our retro players would really enjoy it. Came out in September. I hadn't heard of it until this winter sale on Steam, but it's called Parking Garage Rally Circuit. Parking Garage Rally Circuit.
Wow, this looks like.
I mean, look at it.
It was ripped right off of Daytona.
Oh, big time! But it's also PlayStation graphics as hell. Look at it, like, you know, crunchy, low polygon,
I love it.
Glitchy. Whatever.
Early 3D stuff, hilarious. I'm looking at your Steam page that you got pulled up, and I'm trying to click on it.
Won't work. Definitely won't work for you. What's cool about it is. The way it controls is my favorite part. It feels really good. It has just the perfect kind of drift mechanics, and they just feel really satisfying, which is good because the game, all the courses are set in parking garages, or sometimes like this one, an outdoor parking area, but it's parking. So it's lots of tight little corners and weird circular up ramps and stuff like this. As if you're just driving around town going, oh, dude, we're going to go to the Hilton parking lot and we're going to zip around that thing. And they get harder and harder, and you got to, unlock better stuff, and your cars improve and all that kind of stuff. It's everything you'd think of in terms of game progression. It also does multiplayer, although I haven't done any of that.
This is more like a rally since it's so tight like that. All those
very much a rally game. I mean, they literally rally in the game or the name, but I wouldn't go into this expecting kind of like a very hardcore rally experience. It's arcadey, but the car mechanics feel so good and so not loose. I don't even know how to describe it. If you remember Rally, what was it called? Rally Race 1 and 2 on PlayStation. There's a vibe like that here a little bit. This is a little more crazy. Single developer, overwhelmingly.
Because he kept working? Oh, you mean he's just by himself. You don't mean he's single.
Yeah, his wife bailed on him after 20 years of marriage. Said, get out of here. I'm sick of this. It is overwhelmingly positively reviewed, both recent and all time. I think this is an amazing little game, and it's still on sale for $7.99 right now, 20% off for the sale.
$7.99.
Totally no brainer. This thing's freaking great, and highly recommend it. So
I'm down with this. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with these retro inspired games, and this is a good looking one. I like it.
Yeah, you would swear you could have told me, said, "Hey, do you remember this PlayStation game?" And I would have believed you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are some modern things about it, like just some. The speed, the UI is way better than any shit we used to do back then, things like that. But it's still, it has the spirit of those things. And I never thought I was going to like that aesthetic again. I always thought that was a burp in time. PlayStation graphics were not going to hold up. Nobody's going to care.
Yeah.
And for a long time, that was true with me. Just get better, get away from that. That was a bad time. We need to get away from it. It was an important time and a necessary time, but let's get past it and get to where we are today. And in some ways, I still fervently believe that, but I now have a taste for this weird, dithered, ugly, bad texture, low poly thing is kind of doing a thing for me right now.
I think that the singular purpose of games because games today have to be everything, right? It's like, I mean, you already got a game engine that has the ability to put everything in it. Why not just go ahead and include every game genre in your game? And I think that makes things convoluted. And looking at these old games that are very specific to a certain style of gaming, are just really well married to the visual look that they're using. So
I agree.
It's just tasty. It's a nice, tasty bit of art.
Yep. And it's $8. You cannot go better than $8. So pick it up. Buy it today. Brian, what'd you get up to this holiday?
Oh, well, dude, it was the holidays. Since we talked last, Santa ho'd his way down my chimney and brought me some 8-bit goodness in the form of a Nintendo Entertainment Action Set.
What? With the gun and the whatnot in there?
In the gun. So it's not the first one that came out, but later on when they was trying to bundle in everything, they changed that gun to the orange, got Duck Hunt, and got the Super Mario Brothers, a couple of controllers. I had found this actually at a local Goodwill. And I told my family about it, and it was like 130, but it was in the box, right? And I'm like, I don't have one in a box. I have several, but this one was well loved and taken care of. And so clearly, I finally, for the first time ever in my life, because I was not an NES kid, I got to wake up Christmas morning and open my present. And Nintendo was in there, and I hooked it up to the CRT, which I keep in the living room for, especially during the holidays when we're watching all of our old holiday specials. And the kids came over, and we played some Super Mario.
Nice.
And
you didn't play no Hogan's Alley, no Duck Hunt, none of that.
So I played Duck Hunt, but I was putting them to shame so badly that they did not even want to pick up because I was killing it.
Yeah.
I mean, literally ducks were flying everywhere, duck parts.
And then
I didn't know I was a champion level at Duck Hunt, but apparently I am. But at first I didn't think I was. At first I thought something was broke because I hooked it up to my VCR. I have a VCR. Shut up.
Sure.
It's a VCR DVD player.
Sure.
And apparently I didn't think there was any lag, but apparently there was some lag from the input. So I had to directly input it into the TV. And once I did that, I was killing it.
Yeah.
Killing it, baby.
So it came out. Hogan's Alley, just as a side note. I always thought it was the pack-in, but you're right. It was Duck Hunt, right?
Yeah, Duck Hunt, Mario, that dual cartridge. Yeah.
It came together. Let's see. When did this actually? Hogan's Alley, 84.
84.
Arcade versus System had it, and then the NES had it same year, or no, a year later. It was one of the first hit video games to use the light gun as an input device, along with Nintendo's own Duck Hunt. Game presented characters with cardboard cutouts. Bop, bop, bop. Was a major big arcade hit in the States, it says, and I can't find anything else about it. I thought it was packed in. I guess it wasn't.
I don't remember Hogan's being. I do remember everybody had it. So
I definitely had it.
It was a pack in.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they did that one Christmas or something. Maybe I don't know.
I thought Hogan's Alley was the bomb when I got it. I loved it.
It certainly is. It was a way to go beyond Duck Hunt because there's only so much Duck Hunt you can play before you just like going, okay, I'm killing it. I mean, I was bragging about my World League level of Duck Hunt, but I mean, really, once you figure it out, everybody gets good at it. At first, you suck at it, and then you get good, and then you just stay good.
Yeah. And Hogan's Alley was directed and produced, and main designer credit goes to Shigeru Miyamoto, who ran the whole thing. Whereas Duck Hunt was just him as producer, and then they had other guys make it. I'm not saying they're not as good as him. I'm just saying that they're not as good as him.
They're just not as good as him. They just don't have the jazz. He's got the jazz.
He has the sauce.
Yeah, he has the sauce.
And it's leaking all over the place.
What kind of Nintendo sauce do you think he has? What do you think it is?
All right.
It's not ranch, right?
No, but if it's mustard, it's Wario mustard.
Okay, right.
Mario would be ketchup.
Right.
Relish from Link. Link would have relish.
So who's the mayonnaise? Is Donkey Kong the mayonnaise?
Who is the mayonnaise? No. I think it's Kirby's probably the mayonnaise, right?
Okay. All right.
He's more like
anybody.
Pink fry sauce.
Because he's kind of like a base. He can take anybody, right? You can put ketchup in mayonnaise. You can put the mustard in the mayonnaise.
Dude, he could eat anything and have the powers of it. That's the way he works.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because, if everybody's all like, oh, putting mustard in the mayonnaise, and you're like, oh, yeah, deviled eggs.
Yeah.
We always have those at
We had them. We had them 2 days ago. They were fantastic.
Yeah, we almost had them at my mom's house, and she called me the next day and says, "You know, we had deviled eggs in the refrigerator. We didn't take out. Now we have 40 deviled eggs to eat."
Oh, nobody! Yeah, you don't want them that way. You want them when they're fresh and yummy.
Yeah.
Talk about blue ends. Ooh.
Oh.
Well, anyway, don't get your blue ends, but do stick around because we're about to talk about Commander Keen.
Shall we play a game?
Well, some of you kids out there going, who the hell is Commander Keen? And I would say, look, we in the 90s had a desire to piss off Nintendo. Not piss off Nintendo, but rebel against all the Nintendo-isms of the day. And one of those was, they've got Mario, the biggest hit video game of all time. What do we have on PC? And the answer is usually nothing. Because nobody was making platformers for the PC, at least making good ones anyway. And along comes a little company nobody had heard of called id Software, or what would essentially become them, because really it was more under the name Apogee.
It was, in this point in time, the original Commander Keen was developed on a soft disk payroll, essentially. I don't know if it's payroll. They took the computers home. So the guys, Carmack and all those guys, they grabbed the PCs from their day job at Soft Disk, which was a magazine that distributed software monthly. And on the weekends, they took those home and they developed a little game called Commander Keen.
Yep.
And nobody owned it, sort of, kind of.
No, it's kind of this weird thing. Tom Hall, I believe, was like, well, you know what? I'm going to let Carmack explain it. I have some audio from him that you heard.
Some Carmack? Yes.
You heard a taste of it earlier. Here's the rest of this. It's him talking about Commander Keen. It's about 50 seconds.
So the design process, we would start from, we had some idea of what we wanted to do. We wanted to do a Mario-like game. It was going to be a side scroller. It was going to use the technology. We had some sense of what it would have to look like because of the limitations of this adaptive tile refresh technology. It had to have fields of relatively constant tiles. You couldn't just paint up a background and then move that around. The early design, or all of the design for Commander Keen, really came from Tom Hall, where he was he was kind of the main creative mind for the early id Software stuff, where we had an interesting division of things where Tom was all creative and design. I was all programming. John Romero was an interesting bridge where he was both a very good programmer and also a very good designer and artist, and kind of straddled between the areas.
So it gives you a little taste of those days, I suppose.
Right. And what John Carmack was saying there essentially is that up until this point, most PCs were kind of a do-it-all kind of PC for the home. And he was talking about that adaptive refresh on the edges, essentially, of the screen when you're scrolling. They already were doing that on the consoles, and he figured out a way to do it on PC. So the reason why we didn't have any platformers on the PC is because you had to go screen to screen. You'd have to load a new screen up every time you get to the edge, which is going to be breaking on a platformer. But he figured it out. He's like, wait a minute, I got this. Figured out a way to do it. And so we had scrolling now. Suddenly we had smooth scrolling on the PC.
Yeah, which was wild at the time. I remember getting this on my, I think, 286, if I remember correctly.
Right.
I wouldn't need to get a 386 until frickin' Wolfenstein, so the same company made me upgrade then. And then I would have to get a new one for Dune with a 486 not that long after that either. But yeah, Commander Keen was a bit of a freakish moment for PC gamers, because home computer gamers, because up to this point it was a lot of point and click sort of adventure stuff, war gamings type things. The sound was terrible, as you'll hear here. Let me play that. Once again, you're just using internal speaker stuff.
Yeah, you could use a sound card, but it had to be designed in a way that it could use either the internal speaker, or, because that's what people had. This is the early 90s. Right. Not everybody had a sound card.
No, most people did not. In fact, it was rare. In fact, the first time I even had Wolfenstein, I didn't have a sound card, and so it was still bleeps and bloops like this, which was crazy, because then when I got a sound card and I heard what Wolfenstein could sound like,
Right.
Lame by today's standards, but holy shit, I was blown away by it. I was like, you kidding
It
me?
was game changing.
You hear the Germans going boo-ho or whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's voices in this. But yeah,
there's all kinds of channels and stuff, and because it's awesome. It's it changes everything how the game's how it's experienced. I mean, it's because right now at this point in time when I'm playing Commander Keen, the first one, I'm thinking this ain't that much further along than all those bleeps and blops and bloops on my Atari 2600, right? And Nintendo's well surpassed this. They got ongoing music in the background and some very quality, good quality boops and beeps. And here at the PC, while we got the scrolling stuff down, we hadn't got the audio yet.
No, not at all. Why don't you actually? Why don't you give us? Let's go back in time. We're going to get into a time machine. Brian's in front. He's driving. He's driving it with a, let's call it a flight stick from the 90s. He's flying this time machine. He's going to take us back to December 1990. How would I get Commander Keen? How would I install that first episode? How would I play the effing thing? At all. Like, it's not the same as today where you hop on Steam and download a thing, or you go up the road and say, here's my money, GameStop, thanks. It's not that. It's something very different. And I didn't play Commander Keen back in the day, but I did play other games like this. Shareware was coming into its own. And in December of 1990, you could grab a copy of Commander Keen Episode 1 for free by dialing into your local BBS. That's a bulletin board system, and where you could talk, you could leave, leave messages for people. Sometimes if you were at a BBS that had, only so many phone lines, you'd have so many hours that you could access it, and you dial into it, and you could communicate and get stuff. And one of the things, if they were hosting some Apogee shareware, you could download this on your 2400 baud modem. That means it's going to take you about an hour to download to not even just a small floppy, essentially. Tiny files that would take just forever, and your mom had to stay off the phone, and oh my gosh, dude.
Nobody can get on the phone, and so you got your MS-DOS 5. You don't even have Windows 3.1 yet. This is 90, right? You may have something, but this you probably don't. You got MS-DOS 5 and all command line. You download that bad boy, then you got to unzip it, which is we're familiar with that right now, right?
Yeah.
And then you could play the game, and the story had a complete beginning, middle, and end, but it was a kind of a cliffhanger because they were releasing this with the Apogee philosophy of release the first part or the first episode, get people hooked, to play the game, get used to the characters, the gameplay, and then get them to either mail you in a check, oh my God, or get on the phone and call you. If you mailed in a check, with your order form, it might take you 4 weeks to get the game. If you did it over the phone, probably closer to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But $30 would get you all 3 episodes, or you could buy them individually for $15. You'd also get some extra bonus stuff, some content, and some cheats.
Yeah.
And that's how we rolled back in the day. You didn't get any instant gratification, but it's Christmas time almost, December of 1990. You download the shareware, you talk your parents into ordering it. And just like that first year with the Star Wars figures, you just get a little card with a promise of in 4 to 6 weeks. Some fun.
Yeah, because we didn't have any business models yet. Let me tell you a story. Let's come back to the Ghost of Christmas Present, and let me explain to you how you do it today. Here's what you do to get Commander Keen today. Big, huge hoops to jump through here.
Yeah.
Go to GOG.com or Steam or your Switch store.
Yeah.
And then click play on a button.
You click.
You just click it. You click it, and then you play it. Is what you do.
Yeah. And
now,
you play it.
I just think I really appreciate this because this is our way of painting this picture, and we don't do this nearly enough when we talk about retro things. We forget just how things were, and in some ways, it's magical. Even the pain in the ass stuff is magical. Managing your memory manager to get Quake to run, as an example, or whatever weird ass shit, running special mouse drivers because DOS didn't support a mouse or whatever it was at the time. As weird as that and as backwards as that stuff feels today, it was the journey we were on, and we're still on it. Whether we believe it or not, whether we think things have peaked at ease, I don't think they have. We're still moving that direction, but it's great, man. Freaking great.
I love the convenience and the embarrassment of riches that we have now with video games that are as easily accessible as any other content like music or TV shows or movies have been for a while. Now we're at a place where, in the last couple of decades, they're just everywhere. It's just easily accessible. But there was a time when you had to appreciate each piece. And I don't miss it, but I appreciate the fact that there was a time when, Commander Keen would be your entire life because you'd have to invest so much into it just to get the dang thing to your house. And so, man, yeah, I tried to experience that as much as I could this past week. I have a Mr. FPGA. We've talked about that in the past. If you want to hear more about that, I definitely would be glad to talk about it. And I hooked up a USB floppy drive to it, and I loaded up each of these discs. I was able to find, I own this on Steam. I own the Steam collection and the good old game collection of Commander Keen, but I did find some preservation of the original floppies and installed from the floppy disk onto my 622. I didn't have time to load up MS-DOS 5. What am I?
No, what are you, a freak? You're
not
a freak.
Am I a freak or something? No.
Yeah.
But I did get most of the experience, and having to look. And it's always fun for me to do it that way because you get a chance to, whenever you exit out of those applications with shareware, there's one final message you always get. And I always ignored them growing up, but now I'm like, I read it. It's like, oh, here's Apogee, and they're making their sales pitch.
Mm-hmm.
I got it. I exited, and now I get this big screen that's got their phone number. What I should do, telling me not to steal this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
It's a great time to be alive. Absolutely. It's a great time to look back at that weirdness because it was weird, but it is what we had. And
thank you, December.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll give some love to id Software just for being such a crazy example of establishing new ground in an era where nobody was sure where anything was going.
Yeah.
And then navigating their way to becoming one of the most important developers and game creators of all time. They are legendary.
Yes.
And then continuing on today to be very interesting individuals. I mean, they obviously sold id to ZeniMax and whoever else before that. Yeah. Like all that stuff has changed hands, but Carmack and Romero and Willits and Willits
and the other Carmack, the artist Adrian Carmack,
no relation. America, what's his name, or what was his name? American McGee. American McGee. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Like watching those guys and what they did and where they did it. I don't want people to forget. It's a huge deal, right?
They were literally kids. This could happen again, and maybe someone else would disrupt everything.
Yeah.
Apogee was disrupting. And they hooked up with id Software crew that was forming. These were all a bunch of kids that didn't even know that you shouldn't be working for one company and plotting to start your own business using their hardware. And they got so lucky that Soft Disk was not a hard ass. That company was not a hard ass. And instead decided that they would make some deals with id Software going forward to get more software from those guys.
It's also keenly important, I think, to mention from my from my perspective. This is a little bit personal because back in those days, I knew or had I won't say I knew him like friendship or something, but I met John Carmack a couple of times at a local software retail store called Software and More. It's not here anymore; it's long gone. But Software and
No More.
Yeah, Software and No More. And he was kind of actually smoking from three teats at that point.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what we were in for, but I remember meeting him a couple of times because I knew people that worked at Software and More. And then later at a different company, we start hearing about this Commander Keen thing. We start hearing about Wolfenstein. Like some of the stuff just starts happening. And we realize, oh my gosh, it's that John Romero. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff I could get into, but I won't. But it's just crazy how formative that shit was for me.
Yeah. And those guys have been great about giving back to the community. They've always been open to any questions I've ever had. I've talked to John Romero myself before, and just they love gaming. They love the community. They love all that stuff. And it was really interesting for me for the first time to run through Commander Keen, because everything I knew was Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake especially. And so I didn't see what they cut their teeth on. And going back and seeing their silly humor in Commander Keen, and this big vision of adventure in a small way, in this little genius kid who's got to, kind of fight his way through, the 50s era kind of alien invasion kind of stuff, was just really interesting. You really see how far they grow from the first Commander Keen. Like Adrian Carmack says, he goes back, and it's the artist. He goes back and says, looking at the first one's rough. The first three, the trifecta, the trilogy. The first one is called Keen Invasion of the Vorticons, which has 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm. That's Marooned on Mars, The Earth Explodes, and Keen Must Die. Those are your 3 episodes.
Yeah, and that was all done in one type of engine and art. All the assets and everything was done in a certain way, and not their proudest moment. But didn't they learn a lot? And they just kept building. And by the time you get to the last one of these episodes, which is only in like a 2-year time, it's not like in a year time frame, because it's like from the first Commander Keen in the end of 1990, we get all the way to basically the 3rd release with episode 6 by the end of 91, and then it's off to the races. And so if you really want to get an idea of just the complexity that they grew in just a year of doing this stuff, it blew my mind.
Now, this is what's crazy. Just to give you some context on the timing of all of this.
Yes.
This is the same year as German reunification, the East and West Germany reunified.
Oh.
The first McDonald's opened in Russia. Does
that mean we win? I think when we did that, that's when we won, right? That was the flag of winning.
We thought we won. Whatever. Yeah. It's all bullshit in the end. A Billboard #1 song. Guess what it was that year?
Give me it.
Another Day in Paradise by Phil Collins.
Nice.
Arguably his worst song, but anyway, that was going on. That was the year they closed the Leaning Tower of Pisa because it was leaning too hard, and they had to reinforce it.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
there was a bunch of that. They finally lifted martial law in China after the Tiananmen Square massacre back in '89. So it took about a year of that. Big stuff. And one last thing. Let's see if I can find it. Can't find it. It was a rock and roll one. Oh, here it is.
You're talking about a lot of really big world events.
Yeah.
And here we are. Let's do some escapism. Episode 1 of Maroon on Mars. Exactly what I want to do too.
Exactly what you'd want to do. Now, not that 1990, I wasn't all that concerned with the worlds going on, but it does give you an idea where you're at. From a technology standpoint, that was the year IBM launched the first risk-based workstation, the RS-6000. So that gives you an idea on there. That thing is about, I don't know, 0.5% of the power of my freaking phone.
Yeah.
So it's been some time since then, but still, it was a big it was a big deal. It was a big deal.
Meanwhile, Blaze is over here building. I didn't get all these puns until halfway through the week, but Blaze is over here, Commander Keen. He's building a spaceship in his backyard out of is it bacon and beans cans, because he calls it this bacons and beans ship. It's just
it's all
so
very
typical.
Weird. Yeah, Tom. It's all Tom. This is Tom Hall stuff, man. That guy. That's what
Tom
he does.
Hall.
Yeah.
It is totally of that era. And you go on your little platforming adventure. I wasn't very good at it, but thank God they gave you the ability to save, and I saved often because I couldn't even understand. Oh, by the way, this is let's talk about the tech while we're talking about that. Is the Gravis joystick? You had an option basically. Play a platformer on a keyboard.
Yeah.
Jeebus.
Which is how I did it, by the way. I did not have the joystick.
That's how we all did it. Nobody had some people had a Gravis keyboard, but most people didn't have a Gravis joystick, right? The joypad. You might, if you were a heavy gamer, but who was a heavy PC gamer in 90? I don't know anyone. But anyway.
For those who wonder what that is, Brian may be talking nonsense to you. This is what it looked like, this thing right here.
Right. This Gravis gamepad, which is basically
everyone had one. If you were hardcore into PC gaming, you probably had one because you were paying like Comanche or something with the joystick. The buttons acted as buttons for whatever you needed. If you needed just basic joystick control, you had it. I mean, it was kind of the thing for a while.
You didn't have much of a controller, on those. Anyway, so you got that.
It's a little phallic for my taste. I don't like this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So I'm talking about. You're showing the joystick version. I had. I think a lot of people were using the gamepad version when I saw people play.
What was that called? They just called it the joypad, right? I think
Joypad. I think it was Gravis gamepad. Is that right? I think is what it was called.
Gamepad. That's it. Here you go.
Gamepad.
This is it right here.
Yeah. And
you could screw. So the D-pad let you screw in a stick. I forgot all about that.
You could screw in a little thumbstick. yeah. Trash. Absolute trash.
So bad.
But if you had one, you were fortunate. And so I played this week. I tried to play old school. I did my platforming using the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. You when you first start, you're looking for a stun gun so that you can blow up some Vorticons. The enemies. Did we talk about this story? The Vorticons are coming.
It's a pretty lame story. I mean, if I'm honest, it's like no offense to anybody involved in the production of said game, but ooh.
Yeah. I mean, Commander Keen, he's on an adventure. He lands on Mars, which is occupied currently by Vorticons who are not natives of Mars, but are staging an attack for Earth. Here's a little spoiler. Give you a few seconds to pause in case you didn't know. Ends up being, by the time you get to episode 3, is the grand intellect who is guiding the Vorticons is actually like your high school, your elementary school nemesis, Mortar McMire.
Sure.
Right. So you feel like you're in control of your life, but you're not really. Everything that's happening is intentional. But yeah, You get your little blaster gun, which you have to. I believe you have to use Control and Alt to fire for that.
I think that's right.
A jump, but then you have to. You get a pogo stick later on. You're like, oh sweet, and this becomes a really important factor in this game is the pogo stick.
Yeah.
You think that's going to be cool because you think you just whip that thing out so you can jump to higher levels, and you can, but you also get lazy because it's an auto jump, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can jump in a platformer and mash the button every time, or you can use the pogo stick and be lazy, and that's what I would do. And then you get to a place where you've got to do a combination of pogo jump and regular jump, and I die every time.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool game mechanic, though. I like that part of it.
Yeah, they got creative, they got innovative. If I'm going to give it any major beef, here's what I give this beef.
Give it some beef.
Here's the beef I give it. I think that it is scatterbrained level design.
Right.
It's just kind of nonsense. Just little boxes everywhere, and you got to find your way through it. Does not have what Mario did well was like this really defined. I think level 1-1 is like, all right, I'm on the ground. It's grass. There's these pipes. Some of them I can go inside of. That's cool. There's platforms. Some of them I can knock open and then get stuff out of, including some mushrooms that give me superpowers. Like it made sense. Commander Keen is like, there's this little layer of story, onion paper thin. But then when you go to play it, you're like, this is just 1,000 million blocks I got to work around.
It's a lot. It's exactly. So they had cut their teeth actually on what they were trying to do originally. Carmack and Romero and all those guys, they were originally kind of going, we would like to see platformers, because it's a lot of fun, like Mario on a PC.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when Carmack found a way to make that kind of happen. And so they used one of their characters they already had called Dangerous Dave, and they made like a little prototype. And they played around with that for a bit. They sent sent that to Nintendo to see if Nintendo wanted to work with them to port it over to the PC, and Nintendo's like, no thanks. It's like, cool bruh. And then they said no thanks, and so then they started making this Commander Keen game on their own, and you can tell it just looks like they didn't understand level design yet. And that's the part I love, because by the time they get to the last one, level designs gets way better. In fact, I would even argue episodes 4 through 5, which are 4 and 5,
91, I guess, Secret of the Oracle and the Armageddon Machine. Those are already infinitely better. in terms of navigation and actual level design. And then if you jump all the way to Aliens Ate My Babysitter,
Bait My Babysitter,
Ate My Babysitter in '91, which was technically episode 6. Again, in their business model. By then, this is a good game. Like, it's legit.
And so it kind of has this dropping off. So you see shareware kind of becoming less of a thing for them in this path, but they're about to just do one. They're about to blow shareware up with Wolfenstein and Doom and all that stuff. But on the way there, they find that the second one, they did, Apogee is helping them distribute that thing, and then by the time they get to the last one, Apogee no longer distributes as shareware, but as a retail box. They team up with another company, and they put that into the retail places. It's a company called FormGen.
Right.
So that's the retail copy. Got a little more expensive by the time you got to the 6th episode. 4 or 5 was only 2 episodes in the second game. Shareware, you got the episode 4 for free, and then you had to pay for episode 5 if you want to finish it. So it was kind of like you could tell that they had interest in it and they were still using it to grow, but it was starting to kind of, fall to the wayside. They were already starting to think of things they wanted to do, like 3D stuff.
Carmack was big on pushing the tech, and that was
his big thing. It's like, I'm a programmer and I want to push the tech, and I want PCs to be able to do everything that everything else is doing.
Yeah, and he was in, as far as shooters go, they invented it the way we think of it now anyway. And without that kind of drive, I mean, if they'd just said, well, let's just keep making side scrollers, that would have been very disappointing. There's a timeline somewhere where John Carmack did nothing but platformer tech and quit early and just got out of the business and whatever. I don't want to live in that world. It's a bad timeline.
Yeah, it's a bad time. We needed that next step. But Commander Keen, what a nice step. And I did not realize how, I want to say deep the storyline is, but I didn't realize how deep the gameplay was, the variety of gameplay, especially like in the first ones. I feel like I'm just kind of going through the motions. But by the time I get to Aliens Ate My bait, I'm gonna do it like you did.
Ate my girlfriend.
Babysitter. I'm all over the place. I'm fighting against these the bloogs and the blooglets.
Yeah.
And you're picking up. It's so different because you have key cards you have to use to figure out levels now. So now it's no longer just a left to right platformer. By the way, they kind of abandoned that by the time they got to the second game engine, which was the episode 4 and 5. They started going from left to right to left, I suppose, just to distinguish themselves from other games.
Well, the first game even had, it's a lot of backtracking regardless of which one, but you're right, they kind of locked in on a more of their formula by the time they got to 4.
Right.
First 3 though were like run. Oh, go up and go. Beep, 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 beep. You feel like you're almost back to the beginning. Too many random blocks, too much shit going on. By the time they released this GBA game, which was just called Commander Keen in 2001.
Yeah. So and by the way, they didn't release it. Some other company.
Yeah, this is somebody else. They have no control over this. They licensed it. So id Software is not making these anymore. But I played this. It's all right. It's okay. It's not terrible. It's not like the best game. It's okay.
Right. Looking back on it, it's not terrible. But if you talk to a diehard Commander Keen fan, they're gonna take a big old crap on this thing.
Oh yeah, they're not gonna love this. Besides, Commander Keen's whole thing was anti-console and PCs rule, and that part of our collective like stupid fight was around this for gamers anyway. So. Yeah, I get that. Also, I don't know who the audience was 10 years later. I guess old Commander Keen fans who still wanted to play Commander Keen in a new thing.
Yeah, there was a company. There was a company essentially that the only reason why this happened is because there was a company that this is all they did. They went around and found properties that were kind of maybe still had a little flavor left, but were pretty much done. And then they would make mediocre platformers on them, and they would have varied success. So that was like their whole thing. That's the only reason why this Commander Keen game even made it. It's because somebody was like, oh, look at this Commander Keen. Let's see if we got any juice left in this thing. Let's squeeze it one more time.
Yep.
And you got what you got.
Let me tell you what's poop. Can I tell you what's poop?
That?
Here's
Tell me what is the poop.
Commander Keen in Keen Dreams, 1991. This is garbage. It is not good. I do not recommend seeking it out. It's already considered even by them as a weird outlier and an oddity in the series. Unlike the other Keen games, he does not have his usual ray gun. Instead, he uses flower power pellets to temporarily pacify his enemies. My beef with this is it reminds me of like Mario 2, which wasn't really a Mario game, although I have some fondness for it now. But at the time, it was like, what is this? Why are we pulling turnips out of the ground? Who the hell's what was the name of the bad guy? Not Egbert. What was it?
Yeah, Egbert.
No, it's not Egbert. It's something else.
It's close to Egbert.
Birdo.
There you go. Yeah, I like Egbert better.
But it's like one of those, and it just fell off. And I tried to spin this up this time, and I just this game sucks. Don't play this game. It's not good.
Some people call Keen Dreams from 91 Keen 3.5 because it was released after the first 3 episodes and before the 4th episode, and this was part of their contractual obligation deal that they made with Softworks, because they said we'll make some. They said, tell you what, let us go with Apogee and publish this, these Keen games, and we'll make X number of games for you, so you can release. And this is one of their things they said they would do. So they made this for Softworks, and obviously they put a lot of heart into it. And so they kind of they needed it to kind of not be a part of the main line, but they still needed it to fit in Keen Dreams. I'm sure they are the Commander Keen path, because I'm sure they probably made some promises saying, well, we're going to give you some, something that sells at least. And so you get this, and it's weird. And it's all about groovy tubulars and fighting potatoes, because this is a dream. This is not actually happening. They intentionally made this non-canonical awake type of Commander Keen. It happens in a dream,
sure,
and it has no effect on the rest of the story. So it is what it is.
All right, there are 2 other things that year I want to mention.
Yeah,
Seinfeld aired for the first time in 1990.
Yeah,
and maybe most importantly of all, Milli Vanilli accused of lip syncing all their music.
Well, correctly accused of.
Yeah,
but how about called out for?
You know what's stupid? Stupid is now everybody lip syncs and makes millions. It's dumb. Yeah. We owe them an apology.
Ashley Simpson got all that shit on SNL because she lip synced. I'm like, even I knew at the time before they even said, "Oh, she's lip syncing." I'm like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. You can't dance around like that and sing like you're in a studio. You can't do that.
Yep,
it sounds different.
One other really important thing: the World Wide Web proposal was submitted on November 12th of that year by Tim Berners-Lee. And it was basically a document that would essentially set up what we think of as the web today. It is magnitudes of important moment. That was a big effing deal. And the very first web page, first HTML 1.0, or even prior to that, web page created by Berners-Lee at the CERN conference. The very next day, he made the first web page in existence.
Nice.
The internet was there, but it was this, messy thing that had been around since the 60s, late 60s, all based on ARPANET stuff. But by then it was a big deal. So Commander Keen out there on your drives. And guess what? Guess what else? The internet was about to find its ground. And 3 years later, it would launch officially, and we would have, we'd have a whole new world from then on.
I mean, you're using, you could potentially be using CompuServe or AOL even this early on. You're paying your fees. You're paying your fees to your BBS people, for shared time on the BBS, so you can grab your stuff. That's what you did. Now, Commander Keen in his Bacon Mobile and his Vorticon killing. By the way, you can kind of play a pacifist in this. I kind of appreciate that. Did you play kind of like you don't. That's the thing about the Commander Keen games that I didn't appreciate at first was that I don't have to kill everything.
No, you don't.
Because you can just avoid them. You can just typically jump over them, jump under them, whatever it takes just to move around, and you can complete everything. And guess what? When you do that, you have speedrunners. I didn't get deep into the speedrunning, but I know this is a thing. Like some of the stages, like we had talked about, were kind of, the levels weren't great, especially in the earlier ones, and so there's a lot of ways just to quickly get through them. They probably thought it was funny.
Sure.
Look, I've watched enough interviews with the id Software guys to know that they didn't like put cheap back doors so they could get through things. They just said, what if we just make it so you can jump here and you can just jump over here and run this way?
Yeah.
And I'm at the end of the level. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Because they were just trying to get it made, right? They're just getting the games made.
But,
and
so we don't get any emails. AOL launched officially the following year, just so we don't get emails.
Following year? Yeah. Like I said,
just to keep the emails
very
at bay.
close.
All right, everybody, calm down.
Well,
we know.
But 91, if you were getting the second one, right, you could have got some AOL.
No, that's true. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
For all I know, you may have even gotten it through your AOL service, like because we
didn't have AOL because we didn't have. I live in the middle of nowhere, so we didn't have any local numbers to even some of the big guys.
Mm-hmm.
So we were starting to see small ISPs pop up, so we could dial local.
Yeah,
that was a big thing, man. I mean,
it was huge.
It's bad enough that you that you would have to pay for so many hours online. You'd also have to pay long distance charges if applicable.
Yeah,
and that could cost you a lot.
Yep.
More than the service by far.
They only had 12 million users at one point. That's really not that many.
Yeah.
It seemed like a lot back then, but
that's a lot of AOL disk.
Well, if you want to go to AOL.com, it still exists and just puts up chum shit. So enjoy. You know how I love chum ads. They're my favorite.
Yeah. What did you have? Oh, let's speak specifically to the game Commander Keen. Like the story this week about Commander Keen ended up being everything around Commander Keen because it was kind of a stepping stone to something fantastic. But we don't want to leave out people who are really diehard passionate about Commander Keen. Did you have like a favorite bad guys? Because like in the first ones and stuff, like the Yorps were kind of neat and everything, but I really end up playing a lot longer than I meant to in the Commander Keen and Aliens Ate My Babysitter because it felt a lot like the Sega Genesis games I was playing at that time. So it felt like it finally nailed all the platforming stuff and the blorgs, the bloogs and the blooglets.
Yep.
And all those guys and the big giant switches you had to trigger off and on and stuff. I mean, that felt so good.
Yeah. And it was innovative in some of those little ways, interactive ways. Yeah. Like Mario was just about jumping and bumping, right? No big deal.
Yeah. Jumping and bumping. No big deal, brother.
Outside of that, I think at the time, I kind of both liked it and resented it. I liked its rebellious spirit, saying we can do this on PC, and I disliked overall the aesthetic of it. And I still, to this day, kind of think Commander Keen is a particularly ugly video game. And I don't mean because we were limited by the graphics at the time. It's not what I mean.
Right.
I mean, the style of it is not cool. It's not good.
Right. I felt the same way because, I have such a deep artistic appreciation in language for console games. And so I've seen those for so long. And the PC art language I have is more like Doom, Quake, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And seeing this felt odd. But after playing it for a week, it started growing on me. I started actually appreciating how much more depth there seemed to be in the games than a lot of his peers on consoles at the same year. It felt like they were actually reaching out a little further and felt like it had a little more depth to it, even though the story was kind of simple. I felt like the level design was kind of clever in how it was done. So, and I actually kind of like the animation and the size of the sprites seemed a little bit different. And it was just such a different, unique flavor that I kind of appreciated by the end of the week. It felt different, but it's there for me. I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like how I felt about the Sega Saturn, because I had no language for the Sega Saturn because I never played any of the games, but going back and playing, I'm like, I can see a Sega Saturn game in a second. I'm like, oh, that's a Sega Saturn game right there.
Yeah, you can just tell by looking.
Yeah.
I loved my Saturn, man. I thought that was
me
so
too,
great.
man. Especially around the holidays. There is no greater holiday game that I have found than Nights into Dreams, the Christmas edition stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I just turned that on for background noise, having that one of the employees reading that little story about, the hustle and bustle of the season and that kind of stuff. Just, it gives me the feels, even though I have no true nostalgia for it. Just from the last couple of years is really all I experienced it. But it just feels cozy.
Yeah.
Comfy.
Comfy. There you have it. Well, there's your look at Commander Keen. Go play some of it. You can get where you can get these now. You can get them on Keen related fan games. Or no,
So if you want to, if you want to explore deeper into the community stuff, so of course you can get this on. They've got the Commander Keen collection. Get it anywhere. Yeah. But if you want to explore a little deeper and find something like this, because you're not going to find anything like this, but you can find more of this Keen-related fan games over at keenwiki.shikati.net. Now, Shikati you may recognize from the episode 6. So Shikati is SHIKADI.net. Just look for the Keen Wiki. You'll find it. And there's a whole bunch of fan games on there that they've preserved over the years. And also some Vorticon mods and Galaxy mods.
Some of this looks like ass. Stuff. Some of these look real bad.
Of course it does. These are games that were developed by people who are farting around there in the mid 90s. It's not like, something the Keen 3D stuff that was, Jesus.
Can I interest you in a game of Mortal Keen Bat?
Yes, you may interest me in just that.
Okay, because it exists. It's called Mortal Keen Bat. Somebody made it. I'm trying to find video. Because they
used the mocap, and has it got? I would love that if it was some people dressed up as Commander Keen. Oh my God, we didn't talk about the amazing Ken Reiger cover art for Aliens Ate My Babysitter.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Release.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Pretty good. That is phenomenal. Ken Reiger is a legend, especially at Apogee. He made some amazing artwork that is just beautiful.
You gave me this. I gotta go find it real quick.
That guy. Oh my gosh, that took Apogee from, because Apogee was shareware. It's kind of a negative connotation when you think of shareware. It's almost adjacent to shovelware, but it's not. And if you really look, there's some of the best things that ever were released as shareware. But
look at that garbage id logo. Hold on, let me pull that up. Look at that thing.
Oh yeah. They didn't know what they were wanting to do with ID software.
No, they did not.
But look at that. I mean, look at that ridiculous giant Packers football helmet and those ridiculous cartoon characters. Dude, that is some amazing shit. Yeah, that id software is bad.
When I see id software, when I see an id logo that isn't that, I worry. Yeah, it needs to be.
I love the id typing in Quake.
Yeah, and I remember for years we were like, "Is it id? Is it ID?" It was always id, but they always had to correct themselves.
It was a play on the id, right?
Yeah,
it was originally what it stood for something else. I'm blanking here for a second.
Interior deviant.
Interior designers. That's exactly what it was. It was.
Yeah, definitely that.
And they went with that is not it.
No.
And what the crap was it, man? It's like that should be built into my brain. Why am I not calling it up?
Look at these nerds.
It's software. Yeah, love that. I love the typewriter logo they went with later. That was cool.
This is the era that I met him. Is when he looked like this. John Romero. Do you see it?
When he was young and cool.
Yeah. Do you see it in Zoom there?
Did you have some young and cool too? I'll say, I'm on the wrong screen. Oh yeah.
Look at that. Yeah. Look at these guys.
Look at those nerds.
There's Willis behind him, or Tom Hall behind him.
Told you, man.
Here's your Commander Keen guy. The guy in the corner is Commander Keen. The guy freaking out at the back end here.
Yeah.
Then you got, of course, John Carmack in the front, Romero, and I think that's Willits. No. That's is that Adrian? Who's that right behind him?
I think Adrian's behind him.
I can't remember, dude. But look at these nerds. Look what
cool
they've
guys.
done. Yeah, look what they did.
Look at that. That is their human. That is their humor encapsulated.
Those are their human forms.
Those are their human forms when they get in their bean bacon can.
That's right, bean bacon can. Speaking of which, we got a bean bacon can of our own making. It's a game, and it's called Guess My Game. Here's how that goes. If I can find the damn intro for it. Hold on a second. Sorry, everybody. I lost my place. Here it is.
Destroy it.
Time for us to talk about these games that we picked out of yesteryear, and now we got to try to fool each other into thinking it's the wrong answer. Yeah, that's right. It's called Guess Our Game. And I'm going to start with an old game on the Sega Saturn. Funny enough, you brought up the Saturn. It's on the Saturn. Mm-hmm. The year is 1995.
All right.
And for some reason, this is wrong. There we go.
For some reason, this is not any of the games that I used.
I messed up the spreadsheet. It's all good now. All right, here is your audio, Brian. Let's see if you can figure out what this is. All right, kind of just goes like that for a long time.
Dude, if you just said what console is this, I could have nailed that part.
You would have said Saturn,
yeah.
Easy. Yeah. Easy answer. All right, here are your options. Is it A, Baldyland?
Oh, is Ibit in there?
He always is in there. B, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 4, Wall of Fire.
Wall of Fire!
Is it C, Advanced World War, Last of the Millennium? Or is it D, these are all real, or is it D, Roommate W, Futari?
Futari. Roommate W, Futari. All right. So the year is 1995. I don't know what the hell any of these games are. The only one that even sounds familiar, and it's probably not even for this system, is Advanced World War, Last of the Millennium. So I'm going to have to say not Baldyland, not Roommate W, Futari. Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Wall of Fire, Advanced War. When you go with guessing, you usually go with C. So I guess it's C, Advanced War, World War, Last of the Millennium.
Let's find out if it's that. It is not that. It is Romance of the Three Kingdoms 4, Wall of Fire. That's right. That game is it wasn't for me. Okay. I don't want to poo-poo on anybody's, yuck anyone's yum here, but I didn't like these like super serious war strategy kind of risk-like games that were on consoles back then. They just featured very little dialogue, very little sound work, just music and typically ugly little icons on a screen that you would move around and take your turns. And it's fine. These are for somebody. They're not for me. But.
So Japanese, though. I mean, so like Ideas from the Deep was the name of id Software, and correctly they decided to go something shorter. And the same with these Japanese titles during this time, especially. There were always such long titles. They're Romance beasts. Of the Three Kingdoms.
Yep.
4.
Yep.
Wall of Fire.
Yep. Advanced World War, Last of the Millennium. And that one even had a little Japanese subtitle. I took it out just to not confuse you.
Nice.
Baldyland.
Too bad.
I can get my head around Baldyland. That's no problem.
Yeah. Baldyland.
Baldyland does whatever a baldy can. Shaves his head every day.
Nicks it sometimes and says, hey.
Mother wonders if he might be gay. Hey, look out. Here comes the baldy man. All right, let's do yours.
Don't say that, Mom. All right.
Give me some year. Give me some platform. What are we doing here?
So I got my action set Nintendo, which released in 1988. And I was thinking, well, what else might I run to the store to pick up? Because Mom's not going to just give you a system in one game. She's going to at least pick you up one more game. So is it one of these games after you listen to this clip?
Okay, let's find out. Whoops. All right, give me my options. I feel like I got a good taste for it.
All right. Hey, is this going to be A, Mappyland, B, Anticipation, C, Jeopardy, or D, Adventure Island?
88 NES.
The 1988s on the NES.
All right. I think I know, but I'm not 100% sure. The only two that even jump out at me are probably Adventure Island, D, and A, Mappyland. And for whatever reason, I'm getting a Mappy vibe out of it, so I'm going to guess, and it is a guess, Mappyland.
Everybody loves a good game of Mappyland. Unfortunately, that's not the right answer.
What is it then?
Would you be mad if I said Anticipation? Oh, yes.
Yes.
Anticipation.
I'm
It's
already
a board
mad.
game.
I'm very angry.
Yes, it's a board game, kind of like a Trivial Pursuit kind of thing. Look at that.
Yeah, is it fun? I mean, is it
it looked like fun. I'm always looking for some retro community games we play. We play a lot of the in the Mission Deep server. We play a lot of the Commodore 64 Trivial Pursuit Genus Edition from the UK.
Yeah.
And so we just kill it, man, because we're all Americans. We don't know no answers. And so this one looks interesting. It's a 4-player Trivia Pursuit kind of board trivia kind of game that was for the NES called Anticipation, and I really dug the music. The music was so fun. I was just like, yeah, sign me up.
All right, sign you up for anticipate some anticipation.
Anticipation, proclamation.
Nice. Time to welcome something to retro. Not that. That's what I meant. Welcome to Retro Gran Turismo 4 on the PlayStation 2. That's right. You are 20 years old. Congratulations to you.
Oh man, Gran Turismo 4 was so every time PlayStation came out with a new console, there would always be some amazing race game. And race games to me always showed off the new technology better than just about anything. And I remember thinking, it don't get no more realer than this. Gran Turismo 4.
Yeah, 4 is great. Listen to this music. This is the menu music in 4.
Yeah.
I remember this.
Man, you weren't just racing now. You were simulating.
You were cool.
Simulating.
You were cool as hell back then.
You were simulating some shit, man. Oh, man. Gran Turismo is one of my favorite all-time race sim games.
Yep.
Can't complain one bit. Welcome to Retro.
I can complain because I find them boring, but I do appreciate them.
Oh, you find them boring. It's so delicious.
No, they're too. Look, I like cars. I like real cars. I like car porn.
Right.
Quote unquote.
Right.
I don't
quote unquote. Like you needed to quote that. All right, go ahead.
I don't like the racing games that are ultra realistic and serious. They bore me to death.
Yeah.
I need an arcade racer.
That. Yeah. You're wrong, but I can see it.
I'm 100% correct about this. That's why, what do you think about
the NASCAR games?
Those are really good at what they're trying to be. Like Gran Turismo, very good at what it's trying to be. I find them boring as all get out. I
love NASCAR games. I love I love the round tracks more than anything because I love trying to maximize my tire usage on those cars, and I love the NASCAR games that really get wild with the announcers and stuff because it just captivates me.
All right, let me give people an idea what I do love in a racing game that is super serious and realistic. It's really hyper realistic rally games, and the reason I like those is because rally games are basically Souls-likes that I enjoy because I don't really like Souls-likes that much. But the Souls-like, the boss that I'm fighting in a rally game is the road and the conditions. And it is a constant battle to keep your car on track, on time, and in one piece by the time you're done. And I love that. I love the physics of it. I love that feeling of it. Like the dirt games, in particular dirt.
Me and Scott have such a love for the dirt games.
Love them so much. All of them. Yeah. And some of the dirt games are more arcadey, but the dirt rally games are very serious. And those games are great. And I really like them. That being said, if your game is just about, you got to slow down before the turn because here on this road, the Corvette, boring.
What's your take on Viper? Did you ever play that game?
No.
It was like the worst physics of any. It was I think it was a Voodoo game, like you remember the Voodoo daughter cards and stuff.
Sure.
You have these great looking 3D graphics, but it was like nothing but Vipers. And what
was that called? Viper Racing, right?
I think Viper Racing, and it was just had the worst. It just had the worst physics, but it was just so much fun. Because it was so arcadey and floaty, and you could just.
It won Racing Game of the Year that year for.
Yeah, it was terrible though. If you go back and play it now, you'll instantly go, "Oh, that's a shit."
Yeah,
I don't know. There was a fun to it that really translated. I think it was the poor physics of it that just really made it shine, because you had to learn like almost all new physics, and that was kind of cool.
Listen to this. So the company Monster Games, their first game was Viper Racing.
Yes.
Their second game was NASCAR Heat, then NASCAR Heat 2002, then NASCAR Dirt to Daytona, Test Drive, Eve of Destruction, Excite Truck was them. We talked about that a little.
I wasn't a big fan of Excite Truck.
I thought it was all right. Excite Bike 2 World Rally for the WiiWare. That was just basically Excite Bike. They did Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D for the Nintendo 3DS. Mm-hmm. They did Tropical Freeze for the Wii U. Fantastic game. Tropical Freeze is very good. Xenoblade Chronicles 3D. Amazing game.
Yeah. They had a good run.
They're still running. They got
like I said, Viper Racing, not a good game, but a lot of fun.
They got World of Outlaws Dirt Racing 24 came out this year.
Yeah.
Or is it coming out next year?
I don't know. I would think this year, 24, right? That would be this year.
Good job, Monster Games.
2025.
How do they do Xenoblade Chronicles 3D in the middle of all this car shit? That's weird.
I don't know. That's pretty cool, though.
That's very weird.
I like it.
Published by Doonesbury Martin Racing.
You're a Doonesbury.
That's what it says. Dingleberry Doonesbury. Anyway, let's get to some listener feedback.
Welcome to the treasure room.
All right, we got ourselves some feedback in the form of a text, and it says this. First of all, it came to 801-471-0462. Use it frequently.
Or lose it.
Or lose it. Yeah, that's fair. With your recent retro handheld issues, maybe in 2025, Play Retro should look into what retro handhelds can truly play Dreamcast, PS2, and GameCube games, says JR. I would go a little bit farther, JR, and say, or further? Farther. I would go further and say we should do perhaps either an episode or a special, or maybe a patrons first and then later everybody else, something that breaks down like the top 5 and why. Here are the ones that you should get. Here's what they will play. Here's why we think they're better than others. This one's battery explodes. This one doesn't. Whatever. And really get into it. The problem is you and I can't possibly own and review all of them, but we have enough of them and enough information. I think we could make some good recommendations. So I like this idea. It's a good idea.
Yeah. And lots of the ones that our community owns are ones that we actually own. So that would probably be a good cross. We can't cover all of them. Well, we could. We would have to get to a much higher level of patron support to be able to get to that part. But I agree. We should totally do that. I love breaking down each one of these things. I love trying the latest firmware that they use, the operating system essentially of these devices. I love seeing what they can play, what they can't play. We'll definitely have to talk about Dreamcast and PS2. It's a much trickier proposition to get those types of things, and it's going to be hit or miss with all of those. Notice I didn't say anything about the GameCube because as far as we know, you can't emulate anything from Nintendo.
No.
Don't look at me.
Nope. No, it's true.
Stop looking at me, Nintendo.
Just quit looking at me, Nintendo. Look over there instead.
It's not possible.
Next week, guess what? We're playing Eternal Champions from 1993.
What? Yeah, finally Eternal Champions. We've been waiting to do this one for a while. Yeah,
so this was Sega's direct original IP answer to the Street Fighters and the Mortal Kombats of the world. They were like, you know what? What if we had an awesome fighting game that you could only get on Sega Genesis and later 32X? And I think maybe there was
I think it launched on the CD, right? Which I've been wanting to talk about, maybe even get one that works. So.
Did it launch on CD? I thought it was. I bought the Genesis version because I don't think I had a CD.
Right. It's a good question. We're going to find out.
I know it was 100 megabytes, though. That was a big deal.
Oh, dude, that's definitely got to be on a CD, right? That won't fit on a cart.
No, it was 100 megabyte cart. That's what the whole thing was.
Whoa, then it'd be a CD on a cart if they were to.
And I think I think it cost me $100, something like that.
What?
Yeah, it was stupid. It was very stupid, and we were sure. Oh, Eternal Champions changed the world. This is going to death nail to these other fighter games. Guess what? That didn't happen.
But what is interesting though, after all these years, there's a movie adaptation coming out. Apparently, they're trying to release it in 2025.
Who is? Someone who Sega?
That's what they're saying on the PC Gamer movies. That link I posted down there talks all about a movie adaptation of 1993 Sega fighting game Eternal Champions is on the way for some reason.
Derek Connolly,
known caveman fight,
known for his production work on the Jurassic film, set to write the script. The film will likely follow the game's premise as a martial arts tournament featuring historical characters.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh, it's gonna be ass, and I can't wait. Sign me up.
Sounds like it's gonna be ass. Anyway, Eternal Champions 1993 next week. Get your Sega on, everybody. We're about to go back to the Genesis and have some good fun. It's going to be great.
Get your trench coat on and get ready to whip that hook.
That's right, baby.
I'm excited.
Yep, hook and a trench coat's all you need in a street fight. I would like to thank our patrons for supporting us all year long. In fact, this will be our final episode of 2024. Ooh. We'll be back next week with a new episode in 2025. But because it is the end of the year, it's just a great chance to thank everybody in our Patreon who's helped us out this year. We got big plans for you guys in the new year, and I want to thank Austin McReynolds and Adam P. for joining us this week.
Thank you guys.
They're going to benefit from getting no commercials ever and lots of pre-show content every week. Other cool things, as our aforementioned hinted at handheld special, perhaps. Who knows what could come your way? You just got to sign up and find out. That's over at patreon.com/playretro. And also don't forget, retrogib.com is a place for all our cool stuff like the Roller Coaster Tycoon server, Unreal Tournament 99 and 04, and Retro Achievements info. Are you interested? Good, because it's there. Check it out.
Check it out.
Also, playretroshow@gmail.com is our email address. Our text line is 801-471-0462. And you can now find us on Blue Sky, which is you know what? I forgot the thing. Hold on. It is playretroshow.bsky.com. Just look for Play Retro Show. You'll find it. Yeah, I like it over there quite a bit. So I would like people to come join us over there and be a part of it. The retro gaming scene on Blue Sky is on fire.
Yes.
So many people there. It's great.
As confirmed by many of my retro newsletters that I subscribe to. Many of them have moved over there, and even some of them have even broken down the stats on it. And it may not look like the same numbers as X or Twitter as far as followers and participants, but as far as active participation, huge growth.
Yeah, real engagement, not X. Bots and bullshit. Okay?
Yeah.
So get over there and be a part of it. Frogpants.com/playretro has a link to that and everything else we got going on around here, including ways to contact us. That is going to do it for us. Brian, anything you'd like to say before we leave?
Absolutely. If you're really interested in digging in deeper to Commander Keen in Goodbye Galaxy, don't forget to look for the Dopefish, who made his premiere right here. Dopefish. It's delicious.
If you want a fish, get the Dopefish.
Get the Dopefish.
All right, everybody go play something retro. We'll see you next week.
The second dumbest creature in the universe.
That's right.
Those pants are made for frogging, if you know what I mean. I actually don't. Frogpants.com.
Tom Hall's baby.